Welcome back. Here to cover your twin flame path for the divine masculine. Yes, we do release masculine, feminine, and karmic each week. So if you do want to go and look at that content, it is up right now. Now, looking at the actual title, I have actually named this The Maze of Relationships, and you'll understand as we get into the context of this week's read. And we are going to dig into this quite a bit. I do feel there is quite a significant shift with the divine masculine, and we're going to get into the reasons why the maze of this relationship is confusing these individuals. Now, for those of you that don't know, I am a psychic medium. I do cover your twin flame path. I'm a twin flame myself. And with the context of this read, we're jumping straight into it with the crowning energy. Now, these individuals this week, which it does feel about a bit of a power play. And the reason I'm saying that is because of the crowning energy and a lot of the context that is coming through, especially pertaining to the past position, the heart of the position, and some other dynamics and elements coming through in the read, which I'll give you a very quick look. And it's quite funny because, sometimes we have these patterns inside of relationships, and sometimes those patterns no longer work, or we've outgrown them and we're having revelations of maybe some mistakes and misunderstandings or misrepresentation, misuses of power that really aren't taking us to our ultimate goal. And I do think this individual here this week, especially at the collective level, they're really going through a transformative stage. And so it might not look like there's a heck of a lot of action, but there really is underneath the surface where it does come to the maze of relationships inside our life. I do feel as though they could be realizing or feeling automatically, especially from the crowning energy, heck, do I have any power? We do look at the sexual energy from a creative point of view. It's our power, it's our creative forces. It could be, an individual we had kids with. It's where our inner child energy comes from, in self-acceptance of who we are. And I did say this month, many of us could be having revelations about identity crises, and who we are versus what, sort of a tag we've kind of taken on in society, and what that real version of us is. So it's very common that when we're going through this kind of shadow work and revelation, especially for the divine masculine this week, is that two company threes crowd I'm getting, especially with the threes coming through on the card, but it's also about, it's the need to actually nurture ourselves and use power very wisely. It's assessing the individuals that are coming into our life and where they're positive and negative, where those burdens are, where their social responsibilities are versus, who directly we are in the mix of things. And I think that this person is really having a revelation about where their power is, who they let into their aura, who they're connected to, where the complex situations are. And, I really did feel as though this month would feel like an eclipse in some shape or form, whereby for some of us, we may not have this frequency of knowing where we're going. We also could have this feeling as though something's changing, but we're the full card in tarot and we're jumping in the deep end. And that creates uncertainty. But we know we can't go back to that old way of being because we're shedding skin like a snake. And we're realizing that these old chapters that may be rattled our feathers, so to speak, can be coming up again to rattle our feathers to push us forward. Now, as we look to the past position, again, the context of the connection and who they've attracted into their life. Now, it does feel as though they are marking notes. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I'm physically seeing them going through their records of any person they've actually had an intimate relationship with, behavioral patterns in general, people they attracted, why they attracted them, how they create angst inside of other people, and why individuals do get angry. And, what's really caused them to retreat back? What really triggers them where they can't actually communicate and use their assertive energy? For some, it can directly be that they're thinking about how they pissed you off, and I'm just being very matter of fact here. And, where they felt they were very, very sure and clear of things, some element of confusion's coming up. There could have been some statements that Divine Feminine has made, or a circumstance Divine Feminine is going through that now the Divine Masculine is. And I do see for some, especially the further into the journey you get, you tend to mirror each other. So again, there could be collective energy coming through with tribe and family, social responsibilities, feeling at times that you're the black sheep of the family, but really learning a karmic lesson inside that we all directly feel that way, and we can be individual without actually going down with the tower, physically speaking. This conflict, although they're wanting to put it to bed in the past, they do feel as though they're breaking this pattern. And I think for some of these individuals, I'm really feeling this to be quite positive, is that in the heart of the read, they're aware that they had a part in things as well as other people, but they're seeing patterns coming through with particular individuals. Now, this can be with karmics, manipulative patterns, insinuendos, baiting as per se. And, it's some of those things maybe they spiritually hadn't come to terms with. And I also feel with it coming up in the reverse, I actually think this is a good omen, because I do particularly feel, and I don't know why I'm getting this, it's like a pledge of chastity. It's like not falling for the, falling for the trap, actually realizing where maybe people didn't have the best of intentions toward these individuals. There can be a big question mark around that. And they also do feel in order to get through to the Divine Feminine, they're going to have to take a different approach, because there has been a pain body experience that has been caused between the spiritual connection. And so because there has been harm or there has been hurt, and, even if it was that this person had not done such intentionally, it has inadvertently caused damage. And so the approach is going to have to be quite tactical in the maze of relationships. They're also referencing that they had to actually use this, and this is more previous reference, and it was to protect you in some shape or form, although they do feel you would not understand that, because they do feel now in what they know in the maze of relationships is that they could have maybe handled it in a different fashion, regardless of who those people were, and really choosing their battles. There is, again, we do have, and I did say this would come up quite largely this month, we do have family and tribe, and it can be where the person is put in between a rock and a hard place, the choices needing to be made. And these things are going to be something that is going to be addressed. And we always look at Jupiter as something that's really, really positive. But through my awakening a few years back now, one of the kind of synchronicities I was seeing in my path through my awakening in my twin flame path was elephants. And it's funny because my sister literally was here the other day and says, "Oh, you've got those elephants, And it did take me back to that story. So I'm not surprised it's coming up in a minute. And one of the big questions I asked, especially in the context, because I really personally, as an individual that was going through ascension, I had Pluto transiting through my home zone, my family. And so for me, there was a lot of healing and trauma and clearing. And one of the questions I asked myself is, well, we do tend to look at elephants as very nurturing in, creatures and, very protective, and they'll, bound together like tribe, which is very, very indicative of this card. But I thought about those things because we do see, karmic individuals potentially not being so nurturing. And so the big question was, do elephants, also kind of react in that way? Can they be non-nurturing and, reject the young, so to speak? And physically, yes, apparently it was so, which again, it almost gives us that deeper layer that it can happen in humanity, in the animal kingdom, and we can personalize those things. There are those that are very nurturing in nature, and there are those that are less. Each situation is going to evolve you in a different way. And yes, we could say, hey, we really did maybe deserve more than what we got. And we were shaped by those circumstances. And I see divine masculine kind of looking at this. It's like, okay, does blood mean I owe you? Does it mean I have to keep that pattern? Can I break this cycle? There is something very significant shifting here. And it's almost like it's resurfacing. In a sense, to say now, are you going to cut to the chase with this circumstance? And I do see a huge growth in divine masculine's life from really July moving forward. And part of their healing is going to be to do with connecting to themselves, seeing circumstances for what it is, realizing that tribe does not have to be blood. It can be friends and family. It can be either. But any of those wounds, they're going to be liberated beyond, and they're going to be looking for something that is more conducive to who they are. So stuck in between a rock and a hard place, we could actually say, but it is going to serve a purpose. And I do see that as a very positive thing, especially when they are also thinking about the things that used to make them angry and doing the shadow work and where they want to go with divine feminine in the context of their future moving forward. Now, do they automatically know what to do? I don't think so. But I think it's through problems arising where, especially this month for all of us collectively, we're actually finding solutions. So I do see some crosswires. I do see some mess. I do see almost this revelation that maybe what they need to do is nothing at all. And it can be really allowing individuals to resolve their situations, whereby I feel they're actually going to start really focusing on what they want out of life. And I feel it's more the Trinity energy of getting into the manifestation energy, because we see in this dream energy, I don't know why I'm actually getting the Magician. I'm seeing the Magician, I'm seeing the Fool card, I'm seeing the Focus, I'm seeing almost like there's white noise happening in the background. And it's like, you know what, I can choose a different reality. It's almost like I'm in this person's frequency and I'm seeing it through their eyes. It's almost like when you're shocked and there's all this drama going on around you, and then suddenly it's like you're going off into the airs, ringing, daydreaming, and then they're envisioning, okay, well, this is what I really want to focus on. It's like, stop that white noise. They can do them. This is something that goes on repeat. And it's not Zendaya, if it was, we'd probably listen to that. But this is something really where it's on repeat. It's like a broken bloody record. It hasn't changed. And like, so this is going to keep going on forever. And they're daydreaming off into this manifestation. And they're having this revelation, the maze of relationships. Gee, this is something that I'm actually needing to really focus on. This is something of my dreams. This is something of my future. How did I get entangled in this junk? So this feels good. This feels like it's a breakthrough. And the signs, it's weird. I think they're linking the pieces together after the fact. Maybe not. Like I said, I don't necessarily feel they're going to know why this is happening, what to do. We're going to need to be flexible. That's a given this month. But I think they're going to keep their cards close to their chest. I think, although it might look like they're away with fairies, they're in the energy of manifestation. They're really looking at life like, you know what? I'm not telling people. I'm going to mean what I say and say what I mean. And I think it's about talking less and doing more. And I think this is the key of where divine masculine's at. They also feel that they do waste their time talking to individuals that choose not to change, that they're getting dragged down by it. And so they're going to need to listen more effectively to their intuition and not give power to these people. I do think they can be breaking away. And those that aren't, this could be a very hard week, if not a hard year for them, and a very karmic long lesson. Now, we will check in with this next week. I do keep you in the loop, and we will check in with how this energy transitions. If you do need support, coaching, a booking, etc., it is all directly below for the website links. Now, we also are going to be bringing twin flame content to you in an education practice. We are supporting twin flames, and other individuals through their awakening on our Sage Inner Circle network membership. We will be launching all the information about it, although you can visit our website with the links, which the bio links I will be updating on YouTube soon, or any other platform that you directly are viewing this. So if you do need a booking, you can go directly below. Otherwise, I will see you all next week.